Hi, everybody. My name is Tal Gibish. I'm the founder of Gibish Consulting GmbH. We are a boutique relocation agency based in Berlin, Germany, and we are helping people from all over the world to relocate to Germany. Today, our topic for the monthly webinar is the LGBT community immigration to Germany, immigration and relocation. And Dr. Goldstein was supposed to be here today to present the healthcare perspective. Unfortunately, he canceled the last moment, but you still have me, and we're going to have our guest speaker here. So what we'll discuss today. We're going to start with the legal rights and legal protection that the LGBTQ community have here in Germany. We're going to talk about Berlin as a LGBTQ plus hub. I know that some of you are moving to other places in Germany, but still Berlin is kind of like a known place for the gay community. We're going to talk about the healthcare and a little bit about cultural differences, and then we're going to have Dan Reynolds, who recently moved to Berlin from the US, and he's going to tell us his story, his perspective, how it is to move to Berlin from the US just in recent years due to the political situation also here and there. And then we're going to have your Q&A. So if you have any questions, please write it in the chat. And let's start. So the legal issues, legal rights and protection. So from 2017, the law of equality for all was passed in the Bundestag. It was a major day, major announcement. People danced in the streets. It was really, really important. From my perspective, as someone who was here, it was a celebration. The Chancellor then was Angela Merkel, and she voted no. But the main thing that actually pushed this law to pass was that she gave freedom of vote to everybody in the coalition, and that's how the law passed. So that was really amazing. The Equality for All bill basically states that same-sex couples can marry in Germany. First of all, it's possible, it's great. If you can, don't get married in Germany. It's very complicated bureaucracy-wise. But this says that no more civil partnership, which also means that if you had kind of like civil agreement, legal agreement before you're after Germany or afterwards, and this is the basics of your residence permit. It means that you have to get married in order to renew your residence permit. Marriage, it means either courthouse, city hall, or any other way that is not Utah marriage. For some of you who are not familiar with Utah marriage, is basically marriage through Zoom. It's not recognized in Germany. If you married outside of Germany, so please don't forget to bring apostille stamp on your marriage certificate, on your marriage license, and then to translate obviously to German. Also, in the Equality for All bill, there was the adoption. Adoption is allowed now from 2017 to same-sex couples, families, also parental rights. There's parent one, parent two, and not more than that. And rights are equal for if you're the biological father, mother, other, or not. In 2019, the conversion therapy was banned, which was a major step because things were done here a little bit illegal or kind of like in the dark, and then it was banned completely in 2019. In 2024, the SBGG law was passed, and this is the self-determination with regard to gender registration, which means that no need for two expert opinions. Okay, when I'm saying no need, it means that before it was needed. It was allowed to have transition, but it had to have two expert opinions, court decision, and medical certificate. And the SBGG that was passed basically meant that it's not required anymore, including change of name. For example, it's allowed the first name, last name. If you register by birth, you also have to register by birth name. Yes, but definitely it's allowed to change the name. That said, it's really complicated bureaucracy-wise to do this. So if you can do it outside of Germany before you come here, much better. But again, legal, possible, and no problem. There are anti-discrimination laws and agencies that are taking care of any kind of discrimination, if it's at work or school or restaurants. Someone doesn't want to buy you because of your sexual orientation. They think that your sexual orientation is anything that you feel discriminate. There are official federal agencies, anti-discrimination agencies, and also state level. Now, there are some, mostly led by the police, that you can file a complaint there, register, and other agencies that in the email that I'm going to send you after this webinar, you're going to have a list of resources where to turn to if you feel discriminated at work. You have to prove that it was discrimination due to your sexual orientation. There are many flaws. Let's say in Germany, this is one of the greatest things that I love about this country, that they actually try. Not all the time successful, but they're trying. In workplaces, usually you don't hear about this. In school, usually you don't hear about this. And in other places also. Depends on where you are in Germany. Of course, there are places that are more open and some that are not. And that actually brings us to the part of Berlin. If you ask most of the Germans, let's say, they would say that Berlin is not part of Germany. I kind of agree, because it's the most international city. There are other international cosmopolitan cities like Hamburg, Frankfurt, Munich at times, not always, but more conservative cities can also be more open. Berlin has history of activism. Before the Nazi era, they were very known for LGBTQ activism, and here it was more open and allowed, even though it was illegal by law. Berlin is more known for openness. I always say people don't care. It's wonderful. People don't care how you walk in the street. People don't care what you wear, how you behave, as long as you don't, damage any other people or property. Still, it's prohibited by law to have sex in, most of the country, in public. But I think that's pretty logical demand to have. In Berlin, there is very active community. A lot of the bars, the clubs, you can find in in a Bezirk neighborhood called Schöneberg, which I'm sure the ones that are living in Berlin already know, or the ones that are moving to Berlin already know. And there you also find the Pride Parade, what we call, say, Christopher Sunday and CSD. And a lot of other cities, by the way, have this Pride Parade, and no less beautiful, maybe with less events or activism attached to it, but still it's much better than Berlin is much bigger, but it's not, it doesn't say that other places are not. Now, I want to clarify a little bit about the parts of Germany. There are still more conservative parts of Germany and some of former East Germany that are conservative in a different way. And so you can find a hub of right-wing population in Chemnitz, for example, which is southeast and south center east, and it's not a very nice place for LGBTQ plus to live at, or for any other person for that matter. Other places like Dresden, for example, there are parts that it's not really nice. Other places of Saxony, considered to be more conservative than other. But for example, Saxony is one of the not many states that actually have police Bundesman for complaints about discrimination. They have very specific in the police, and they are known to take care of discrimination complaints very proactively. So it very depends on where you're going. I know that a lot of the Americans actually choose the area of Stuttgart, Kaiserslautern, Munich, Augsburg, kind of like south, which is very nice. And I think that the rule that you can actually go for is where foreigners are not that welcome. The same for LGBTQ, the same as any other person, any other expat. That said, the AfD, which is the second biggest political party here in Germany, is led by a lesbian woman who is married to a Sri Lankan woman. And the party, she doesn't live in Germany also, she lives in Switzerland. But her party actually lectures for homophobia, hating immigration, Islamophobia, and so on and so forth. So even in a political party like that, the head of the party is part of the community. So something to think about. Yeah. And now I would go to healthcare. So healthcare, some of you already know this, the differences between there's a public healthcare system and a private one. Now there's a difference in not so many words because it's really complex issue. The healthcare system, the public one, considered to be better than the private one. I know that in a lot of countries, private one considered to be more or better than the public one. In Germany, it's exactly the opposite. You can get into the public health system based on your employment situation or citizenship. For example, German citizens can be insured even if they're unemployed in the public system. Others cannot. In private system, you have to pay by pre-existing. Sometimes you might not even get an option for public health insurance because you have pre-existing conditions. But the payment goes up with the age, and the coverage is not sometimes enough, and you have to pay more out of pocket when in most cases in the public health insurance, you pay 10 euros out of pocket, let's say for a day of hospitalization. So it's 10 euros a day, or taking an ambulance in emergency, 10 euros. In a private health insurance, it would be more. It wouldn't be as insane as in the US. I know most of you are actually from the US as far as I can see. So it's not as insane in the US, but still for Germans or people who Germanized already, I would call it, or integrated already, it considered to be very expensive. And then we go for some things that are specific for the LGBTQ plus community. And here we are talking about HIV positive and PrEP and PEP. So I'm sure you know the terms. Just to clarify, I don't know if someone doesn't know. So PrEP is preemptive medication for HIV, and PEP is, well, I call it the pill of the day after. Yeah, and the treatments for HIV positive and the treatment that you can get, PrEP, for example, they're completely covered by the public health system. With the private PrEP, not really. HIV treatments, you have to check your insurance, your private insurance, just to make sure if it's covered or not, because some cases it is covered, the HIV treatments. PrEP, it's too new for both insurances, so you have to check if possible. PrEP, for example, costs out of pocket. If you don't have insurance, it can cost you basically, I think, in average 40 euros a month, which can be free with public health insurance. But in some places in Germany, there are some kind of centers that provide to people without public health insurance. They provide them free PrEP supply, of course, under medical supervision that they have, and also HIV treatments. So this is something that is really important for you to know if you're interested in one of these things, that there are centers that provide this. And of course, they say it's important to have medical supervision. There are all over Germany. It's not something that is specific to Berlin, and you will get in the email afterwards a list of centers that you can find PrEP and HIV positive treatment out of the public health insurance. And then we go to the doctors, which is very sensitive topic here, because there are that might say the community needs more sensitivity from doctors. Listen, the doctors in Germany, not as nice as you might used to in your origin country. In general, customer service is not that nice in Germany. So first of all, probably it's not you, it's them. Probably it's not personal. So it's something that you have to take under consideration and not to take it personally. There is a website, and I'm going to get the link in the email. And if you're not registered, just write an email to us at info@gibish-consulting.com, and then we can send you all the list of resources. There is a website of the queer community in Germany, and in this website you have recommendations for sensitive and nice doctors and community friendly, which I'm very proud to say that Dr. Goldstein, that was supposed to be here today, is actually part of this list, and he specializes in the community, and he's in Berlin. There are also hormone therapy that is covered with the public health insurance. but also to some extent in the private health insurance. Psychotherapy. Psychotherapy in general is covered by the public health insurance, which means that you get it for free. In private insurances, it depends on the insurance. If you want or need, or I don't know, whatever you describe it, you want a specific therapist for your community that is very friendly or part of the community, then make sure that they're listed in your insurance list, and then you can go there for free or subsidized. That's also possible. Reassignment surgery, in case you're interested, it's only in the public healthcare, which is now, this is the situation right now. But in the private, currently, as far as I know, it's not recognized. Okay. Okay, about healthcare, I think that we're going to have more questions afterwards. And also, I got questions in advance. So we're going to talk about some more things before. So I want to talk a little bit about community within community. Because there are here a few, I say, coming as employees with employment contract. Some of you come as freelancers, and some of you come as students. So there are a few universities that are extremely considered to be LGBTQ friendly, and like Freie Universität, like the Technische University of Munich, for example, the University of Freiburg. So if you're that age, definitely in university, this is the place for you to start. Of course, there is a website called Gay Locator. Gay Location, sorry. You're also going to get this link. Gay Location, basically you give the city and or the place, and then you'll find where to hang out, bars, cultural events, all of these. So it's a very useful tool to use if you're looking for company. It's very hard to come by yourself when you leave your loved ones in your home country and you make this move by yourself. Sometimes, you come as a couple, sometimes you come with family. But most of the times, it seems like members of the community do this step by themselves. It creates another layer of loneliness, and I'm aware of that. But please know, just make the active moves to meet friends, because there are so many expats here that are part of the community, and they are very welcoming. I'm pretty sure you would hear this from Dan as well in a few minutes. And this is something that is really important, because Germans, if you don't know them, they can be very strict and very perceived as cold. They're not really like that. You just need to make the first step, talk a little bit of German, even broken German. That's an icebreaker. But don't wait for someone to invite you. Always make sure to be part of something, but it's your choice. It's your choice to be what you want, to be free, and to express yourself the way you choose to. And if you find it hard, so it's possible. Always remember that it's possible. Just give it a chance. And on that note, I'm gonna clear the stage for Dan, who's gonna tell you his story. So then please open the video, and then I can make you.
Hi everyone, good morning. Any of you guys that are over here in Europe or Germany, good evening. My name is Dan Reynolds. I have been in Germany since mid-February. I used Tall to bring me over and help me with the bureaucracy and preparing me for the move and all of that. My partner of 20 years is still back in Los Angeles. We were kind of in an interesting place early in our time together. We got married, and we were one of the 18,000 couples in California that were able to get married before Proposition 8 passed and banned that. Ultimately, the courts did uphold our right to still be married and the status of our marriage. But then we were kind of in the have group, and anyone else that wanted to get married was a have not. And it took several more years before we had marriage equality back in the US. And one of the things that really made me move to Germany or made me move to Europe in general is watching the direction the United States is headed. I've wanted to leave for many years, but as somebody that had the right to marry, saw it get taken away from people, and then saw it come back, and now anyone in the LGBT community in the US is once again under threat of your basic rights. That's what really made me want to move here. The other big community that is experiencing constant threat right now from the U.S. government in particular is the trans community. Anyone that has the X gender marker on their passport or has used a gender identity that does not match their assigned gender at birth, is under attack right now. They're being held up with issuance of passports or even flat out refusal to issue passports. They've had all of their documents amended and have the government refusing to recognize that those documents are valid anymore. So, ultimately, I settled on Germany and settled on Berlin. And Germany is not without its bureaucracy. There's a lot of bureaucracy here. There's a lot of paperwork. They love their fax machines. Technology for such an advanced country is a little lacking here in Germany in some ways. But if you're in the LGBT community, Germany in general and especially Berlin is such an amazing place. If you're gay, there's a huge gay community here. There's multiple events throughout the year. Easter's a big, a big weekend here. We've got CSD, which is the equivalent of Pride in Germany that Tal mentioned. That here in Berlin will be end of next month. Then we've got Folsom, which is typically in September, but it actually got carried forward a little bit earlier, into August this year. And then we move into the holiday season, and you've got these beautiful Christmas markets everywhere. Like Tal did mention, Germans are a little bit of a tough nut to crack in some cases, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have friends here. It is so amazing to find a community here because there's something for everyone. If you're into, the gear fetish community, there's great bars that you can go to in gear and have fun. And in many cases, you actually have to be wearing, some sort of attire to be able to get in. There's a bar that my friend group and I like to go to a lot called Prince Connect in the Schöneberg area, near Nollendorf Platz, which is one of the main U-Bahn stops for going to what I refer to as the neighborhood. And we kind of often start there, and it's a very social thing. You talk to a whole bunch of people. All the friend groups are together, but then people intermingle and talk, and then a lot of times we move to a different bar later on in the night. There's clubs, there's saunas, there's if you want to go dancing, if you want to go to a coffee shop, there's a great gay coffee shop that the people watching is absolutely amazing. And there's so many expats or immigrants here in Germany, that if you don't speak German, is it going to make it a little bit harder for you to find those German friends, or get around until you get more comfortable with the language? Of course. But Berlin is such an international city. You'll find your friend group, and you'll find the people to be able to hang out with. I was very lucky that I, had the people that actually referred me to Tall. And when I moved over here, we got together a couple times and just totally brought me into their friend group, and so that has been absolutely amazing for me to have people to hang out with. But Berlin is truly a place that, and really anywhere in Germany, but specifically Berlin, you can truly be yourself. There's the common thread is Germans love to stare. So if you're on the U-Bahn or the S-Bahn, our two trains here in Berlin, people will stare at you, but they don't really stare at you anymore if you're wearing leather, or if you're wearing rubber, or if you're, wearing whatever you want, than they do if you're just dressed in shorts and a t-shirt going out running errands and shopping. You can either stare right back at them, and they're not going to be offended, or you can just look away and do your own thing. It's this is truly a place where you can live your best life, and people don't judge you. I remember a couple of years before I moved here, I saw this great thing on Facebook, that there is actually, I believe he's a straight married man, and he liked to wear high heels and would literally go to his office every day wearing a dress and high heels. And he actually wasn't part of the LGBT community. He wasn't trans. He was a straight man, but he liked the women's clothing, and so he just chose to wear a dress and heels and go to work every day, and would take the public transportation. So, if you're coming here, you'll definitely need to put in some of the effort to be able to, throw out that anchor to find people. But there's a group and a community for everyone here, and especially for those of us in the LGBTQ plus community.
Sorry, I had my microphone. Thank you very much. Anyone has questions for Dan before we continue? Or I guess the Berlin people can actually ask you personally if they have. Yeah, so thank you very much. I really, really appreciate you coming here and telling your story. Let me just, yes, so we would share it together. I think that it's very important to show success stories of people who made this successfully. Of course, there are people who don't have this kind of success of, completing this move. But I think that, having the right support, both from your family and friends, and if possible, someone bureaucracy wise. So I think it helps smoothing the process. Yes, so thank you very much for your story. And actually, you reminded me of something that I made a mistake before when I explained about the CSD, and I said Christopher Stern Day. So no, it's Christopher Street Day. Yeah, it just all the saints. It's really yes. If you have any questions, so please write to me, write in the background in the chat. But I do want to answer a few questions that I received in advance. Yes, so actually, we're going to start with something before we attend to this question. And I got asked about refugee status. If the community members can have refugee status. So in general, yes. But if you're coming from countries like Hungary or Poland or other EU countries or other favorable countries that enter Germany without entrance visa, so your entitlement to refugee status is not existing. And that's okay because you have a lot of other residence permit options, and you can be a freelancer, you can be, of course, employee, you can have family reunification, you can have so many things that would be very helpful. So just refugee status, you can use it mostly if you're, well, the same as a Christian person escapes from Egypt, for example, and gets refugee visa. That's also possible to have. But from the EU, you just don't need any residence permit. And from that to another immigration, I have applied for my German citizenship by right of descent. Assuming it is granted, will I be eligible for the public health insurance plan, even though I have never worked and never will work in Germany? That's a very good question. When you are a German citizen, you can apply to the public health insurance. Um, you cannot do this online like many other applicants can. German citizens, if they're unemployed, if they have no history, they just came to Germany, they have to show up at the centers of the public insurance. If it's TK, TK, or LK, or etc., Baumer, or whatever, you have to go there and actually apply in person because there's no option online. But yes, as a German citizen, you're entitled to public health insurance, which is one of the many perks of being a German citizen. I hope it answered the question. Okay. So, um, are there, and we continue with another question about immigration that was asked, are there special visa categories or processes for same-sex couples or families? No, that's the short answer. The long answer that even if you are living in a country that LGBTQ community members are either illegal or have to hide or any kind of tradition wise not accepted, your right as a person, as an individual, is to go to the German embassy at that country and to apply to any visa that you can. If it's needed because you're persecuted, so then yes, you can apply for refugee visa. It's also possible, definitely, if you're coming from a country like that, but that's exactly as the same process of other refugees from due to political situation, religious, etc. Yeah, will my husband, who will not have a German citizenship, be entitled to be on my insurance plan as my family members? So as long as you're married and you have family reunification residence permit, you're from the US, if I recall correctly. So then, and the husband earns 520 euros a month or less, then yes, he can be your dependent. Or kids, for example, kids go, minors go for free on your insurance. But the partner has to earn 520 or less in order to be considered under your wing, your family insurance. If the partner earns more, they would have to have their own account, let's say, of the insurance. And of course, in private health insurance, it means that they have to have their own anyway. What the situation is what the situation is for children of LGBTQ plus families. So I think that this is very important question to ask, and we kind of I hope you don't get the feeling that everything is like rainbows and butterflies here, because it's not. Germany has progressed throughout the years, but it's very, if you know German processes, so it's slow. It's very, very slow. So even progress, has the price and the time to reach this progress and this freedom. So of course, there are cases in most places it's not a problem. I had parents in family that asked me, where are the most families concentrating? From my background, coming from Israel, I feel like it's, like, where is the ghetto? Um, well, basically, if you look for concentration of individuals, families, couples that live in the same area, it's probably be sure about in Berlin. But in general, I know it sounds awful, but you're not special. And I think that's great that you're not special. Nobody looks at you as someone, outsider, except for, newcomers. But there are so many in Germany, mainly in the big cities, that it's nobody cares. That said, there were a few incidents, and mostly in the last few years, mostly with schools with majority of kids from immigration background, or more, let's say, religious traditional background. There are quite a few in Germany, and even though Germany really tries to educate the children for equality, for democracy, pluralism, openness, all what you have in the German constitution. So sometimes tradition is stronger than German values, and it might be hard, but there are processes to actually cope with it. Again, there are federal and local anti-discrimination offices that can help agencies. There are, even for youth, you have counseling centers. So it is being treated, it is getting addressed, but it's a slow process. And you have to understand that. For example, in Berlin, that we talk is very, progress, very progressing. Everything is the activism. The first official, anti-racism and anti-Semitism department at the Board of Education in the Senate of Berlin was established only in 2016. And the head of this department was a Black German activist from the community also. And because they didn't know how to deal with things, they tried to do this, they had the laws, they passing the everything is in progress, everything in process, and that's then it's something that to consider that they learn every time how to deal with stuff and how to integrate this learning and progress. That's a slow process, but they're willing to, and I think this is what in general can count, that they're willing to learn. They want to make it more with the more practical equality, practically less racism. They're trying. Germany, I think, is the only country in the world that has an office to protect democracy due to the past. So this is something that, when you consider moving to Germany, it doesn't matter if it's Berlin, Frankfurt, Kaiserslautern, Braunschweig, or other places. Just, remember that legally, you are definitely protected. If you need some kind of assistance, of course, there are resources that we provide. I would be happy to help. If there's something that needs to be, that needs my assistance. And of course, just remember that, friends is something that you earn by being active. And I think that a lot of people tend to forget that. Um, yes, that's been one of the most shocking and appreciated changes for me. I'm not special or brave or the token trans person. I just get to exist without that pressure and exhaustion. Well, I totally, I understand, and it's nice to be able to be free, to be yourself. And I moved here. I feel part of the community, even though I'm not really, but I feel part. And when I came to Germany the first time, I was amazed how nobody cares. And I love that. Nobody cared, and they were nice to me, and they didn't judge me. They stared, as Dan said. Yes, they stared. My first time in Germany was in 2004. Since then, they still stare, and some of them are judging, but that's maybe other reasons. But in general, I feel safe here as a woman. I know that my friends feel here safe as individuals, as members of the community. And that's the most important thing to remember, that this is a safe place in general. So I'm really happy that you're thinking of moving here, or that you're moving here, or that you're already here. Um, and yes, so if you have no further questions, then I'll say goodbye. And I hope to see you in our next webinar on July 6th, that's going to deal with universities, private universities in Germany, which is also a great way to find what to do in Germany and how to get the residence permit and maybe expand your horizons. So thank you very much for everyone who showed up, and I really, really appreciate it. And I hope to see you soon in Germany. Have a good night, day, or morning.